Somebody asked us one time, they said, y'all are married, right? I said, yeah. They said, y'all act like y'all are still dating. It's like, yeah. Yeah. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the DMC Wellness Wave, where every single week we are bringing in health-minded growth leaders to get to know them. No, I can't. To get to know them, but also to pull insights from them on how to help families get and stay healthy. And by healthy, we're talking about spiritual, physical, emotional, mental, financial. And today we're talking about marriage. So I pulled in the expert on marriage, at least as far as I'm concerned. My wife, Alecia, in the house.
I just had the giggles. I'm really sorry about
that. We love talking about other people's marriages, and so we just figured we put ours out there for you guys to talk about. So if you're already ready for a marriage podcast, you just let us know, because we can do this.
We didn't decide. You said you had this.
Alicia was like, come on, let's do this. And I was like, oh, we just got the kids down. We fed them, we bathed them, she bathed them. We got them in bed.
3.5.
They may be sleeping right now. And this is our us time. What are we normally doing right now? Netflix and then chilling.
Cream. Healthy ice cream.
Healthy ice cream. Sometimes like
popcorn.
Yeah. Yeah. But right now we decided to give you guys 10 to 15 minutes. And we're gonna run down a list, but it's been an eventful week, huh? Tell them about the conversation we had with our kids a couple days ago.
I didn't even get this podcast started without laughing.
We had the sex talk with our 7-year-old and our 5-year-old. Was Gideon there too, or?
Yeah, Gideon.
And our 3-year-old.
I wasn't really listening. But
at least tell them how we did it.
Well, no, I just want to say that Priscilla asked me the night before, and as soon as she asked me, I could not stop laughing. I couldn't tell her, because I was like a 7th grader, and someone had just said, some word, and I could not stop laughing. So I came to Matt, and I told her we would explain it to her later. And I said, you're going to have to do it, because I cannot do it without laughing. But
I had no problem. I had no problem doing it, because like a good friend, Joel Delph, told me one time, he said, it's weird if you make it weird. It's weird if you let it be weird. But if you let it be normal, they're not so shocked and scarred by the conversation, and it could just be another conversation. So that's what we did. We'll talk about that conversation on another podcast. But today we have 7 things that we have learned.
8.
It's 8. It's a bonus. I didn't write bonus. It actually says 8.
We've been married 8 years.
All right, so we've been married 8 years. 8.5 years. Okay. And we've learned a lot. It's funny, like, you could be taught lots of lessons, but which ones have you actually learned? That's a whole another conversation. So some of these things were things that we were told going into marriage, but then you just had to, like, butt heads enough and get in bad enough fights and walk out and go to Walmart and whatever you need to do to learn the lessons for yourself.
We ran out of guest rooms.
We all want to learn the lessons without the scars, but very few of us actually do that. We for whatever reason, we all need our own scars to really take the lesson on. But we do have 8 things. We have 8 things. We have 8 things. And if it's okay with you guys, we're going to get vulnerable and talk. So, yeah. So, y'all ready?
I don't know.
Are you ready?
No.
All right, good. Here we go. Number one lesson we were taught, but I think we probably still had to learn for ourselves. Pastor Lee McDermott taught us this one. And he said, in marriage, you have to learn how to absorb like Jesus. To absorb. What does that mean? What does that mean, to absorb?
When I act crazy, Matt is
Yeah. Yeah. I think the Bible refers to bearing with one another in love. This idea that we all have these idiosyncrasies, we all have these quirks and mannerisms that when you're dating, it's like, oh, it's not that bad. But then you get married and you're literally with that person all the time. And you're like, why do you chew like that? why do you brush your teeth like that? Exactly. Why do you burp like that? You knew that's where I was going. You know, and we were odd in our dating relationship. We were like good. We were good, and Captain we didn't cross any lines that we had drawn for ourselves, and we had never burped or farted in front of each other really before we got married. So even on our honeymoon, she was making me leave the entire room so she could go to the bathroom. Oh my gosh. So it's one open room. But absorb. So when your spouse does something that gets on your nerves, you know, press pause, call a timeout, and don't be compelled to throw every wrong in their face, because that's not how God does us, right? Like if any one of us at any given moment were to feel the full weight of our imperfection laid on us by God, we would literally die. We would become a puddle and we would be dead. And it would be terrible. But God will take one thing and he'll give us one step. And in love, he will patiently walk with us to help us take that one step. So there's room for that in marriage, right? Because we are mirrors for each other. But 99% of the time, and the thing you're thinking about is probably not the 1%, right? 99% of the time, our job is to just let it go and let the Lord do what he's doing in your spouse, because it's not your job to be the Holy Spirit for your spouse. God's still that for you, and he's still that for your spouse. So absorb.
I'm just like thinking of what you absorbed this evening.
When she snaps at me, you know, sometimes you just, yes ma'am, okay.
I was only like once today.
Okay, sometimes with a little bit of a tone, like, okay, fine. Yeah, okay, fine. So number one, absorb. Number two, go to school. Number two thing for marriages is you're not done learning when you get married, right? You're probably just beginning. I had a friend asked me in a podcast, he was like, Matt, if you were going to go back to school for anything, where would you go? What would you study? And I said I would go to Alecia Dawkins University because I want to be a master at my wife. I want to know everything about her. I want to peel some layers back. Maybe later we'll get to peel some layers back. But I want to know everything about her and what makes her tick and what makes her smile and what pisses her off and what she loves about life. And, you know, seasonally that may change. So you're never done learning. Go to school. Husbands, go to school. That's number two. Never stop learning about your spouse. Never stop asking 20 questions.
You're good enough.
That's number two. Number three. This one's on you.
Never stop dating.
Never stop dating.
And I think I was just talking to a friend yesterday about they have kids, young kids like we do, and all they wanted to do was just like on a whim go on a date. And, you know, it's like, well, they don't want to call a babysitter or the grandparents. And so, you know what? They had a date at their house, and that's okay too. And they had a blast. And so I think, you know, this is kind of our date time at night. And there's like nothing better than, sometimes we don't always turn the TV on right away. We might have a 30, 45 minute
2 hour conversation. No, it's good.
But I think that's another form of intimacy is, you know, just connecting and talking. Because I do think a lot of times we have 4 kids, we're both working, we're, you know, getting kids to therapies and practices, and we're, you know, like 2 ships passing each other sometimes. And so I think, I heard someone say this the other day, I'm sorry for whoever you are, and I'm not giving you credit right now, but just taking at least one moment in the day to connect, you know, to ask that person, something about themselves, not about the kids.
Yeah.
And I think you feel seen when you do that.
When you don't do it, it's the weirdest thing ever.
Well, then you start keeping score. So it's like, who did this? Who did that? And I think when you don't connect, it becomes this like war with each other of, you know, well, I want to do this, you want to do that. But I think when you connect, it's just like, oh, the guard's down. Okay, I can show you more grace now because you saw me.
Yeah.
And I think that's everything.
Yeah, and I know, you know, most of us dads are working and adulting all day, and then you come home and you don't think about the fact that your wife has not been doing that, and so you going out of your way to in the power of a moment, you know, really dive into your wife's day. How's your day? But peel back the layers and keep going. Somebody asked us one time. They said, "Y'all are married, right?" I said, "Yeah." They said, "Y'all act like y'all are still dating." It's like, yeah, yeah. Why in the world? I mean, as Christians, you think about like when we dated, we had the most intense accountability. We were in ministry, so when we dated, we had people asking us very difficult questions every single day. So when we dated, when we said goodnight at the restaurant, that night was over, right? We went into our separate cars and we drove home. Now we get to get in the same car and we get to come to the same house and we get to get in the same bed, and the rest of the y'all know the rest of the story, right? What you get to do in marriage. Why in the world would you stop dating when the dates can end so much better than they did before? So never stop dating. They said, y'all like y'all are still dating. It's like, yeah, we are.
What a compliment.
Yeah, that is a great compliment. I hope more people get that compliment. All right, we got to move on. And this next one's you too. Alecia said, we were coming up with this list, and she said, you got to put on there, laugh at the days to come.
Well, clearly I added that. It's like all I could do at the beginning of this video. But I do think laughter is a cure-all. I think Matt has taught me that with our kids, you know, they'll be acting a fool or arguing in the car, and it's like I can only do so much at one time and get their attention, and Matt will be like, you know, put your hands up. All right, put your hands under your arms. Okay, tickle yourself. And then they immediately start laughing, and then, you know, the whole mood in the car has changed. And so I've kind of taken on that tactic. But I think it's the same with each other. I mean, Matt is the king of let me see if I can make you laugh during this fight, and maybe we will be over this fight. It's very helpful. I mean, it can make you mad, but it's also like at some point it is going to be funny. But nothing in the world gives me more joy than to hear Matt laugh when something is like legit funny. When he finds something so funny, it's a different laugh, and I just love that.
And we can both go down a dark hole when we look to the future with what's going on in the world and even in our own family, and sometimes you have to make light of it. And a cheerful heart is good medicine, so you find a way to be cheerful. That's a life thing. I don't think it's just a marriage thing, but good. All right. Number 5, sex is for old people too. Number 5, sex is for old people too.
You didn't have to repeat it.
Yeah, sex is for old people too. Yep, old people too. Yeah.
We're not old.
We're not. I feel as old as I've ever felt.
I know. Well, definitely today I felt that. But I think it's, as you get older, you just never feel old. I think, right?
I feel like my back feels like 100 years old.
Yeah.
My feet feel amazing. Yeah. And my brain is sharp. But my back is 100 years old. Yeah, sex is for old people too. We're not throwing shade at anyone out there who sleeps in separate beds. We're not doing it. No. You can have separate bedrooms. You can have separate houses as long as there's one bed for the rest of your life that you come together every now and then. Sex is for old people too. You know, there is something to waiting and then getting to do it, that there is a novelty to it, that if you're not careful, that's all it's about. It's this new thing. You know, we all have new things in our lives in every season where the novelty wears off and truth is, you can't let sex be a novelty that wears off, that gets old, right? You can't let it be something that you, it was just about the act, right? Because if it's just about the act and it's not about the intimacy between the two of you, you'll lose the best thing you got going for you. And sex is for old people too.
Well, it is really important as a connector. I think anytime I feel Matt and I fighting a lot, especially multiple days in a row, I realize, yeah, it's time, And it is like a magical thing that the Lord created, I think, for that reconnect and the vulnerability when you're together and just the connection, I think, is so important. So.
Yeah. I mean, it's important enough that I think the Bible makes the correlation that in marriage, your prayer life and your sex life are equally as important. So if you think about being in marriage, do you think you'll ever be too old to pray? No. So if the Bible says these two things are equally as important, I'll put the scripture right here, okay? Then we got to make sure that we don't reach an age or a stage of life where we write it off.
You can also say, like, the more kids you have, don't let that be the less sex you have.
Yeah. Don't let it be an inverse
scale. If we can find a way with 4 kids under 7.
Wifey comes first. This was mine. Actually, Dr. Rob Schiffman is a mentor of mine, and I get to work with him with Christ-Centered Chiropractic. And he drove this one home at a seminar. I remember when he was talking about him and his wife Vicky, that when they had kids, they made sure that their kids knew every step of the way, Vicky comes first, Rob comes first. They made sure every single, and guess what? All their kids are grown now, and when their kids call, the first question they ask is, "How are you two lovebirds doing?" Aww. How cute is that? I mean, maybe it's weird to think about your kids hoping that you're still loving and cherishing your spouse, but what a beautiful thing that I hope our kids one day are grown and they're calling and they're going, "How you two lovebirds doing?" Because we made it a point to say, wifey comes first, husband comes first. And we live in a world where we idolize our kids and we live vicariously through them, and we hope that they embody the success that we never achieved, and we put all our stock into it, and you just drift into it. You don't realize that your husband just becomes a co-caretaker. He just becomes, or your wife just becomes the person that's taking them to and fro, and you have your own life. No, it should be the exact opposite. Your kids do not come first. It's your faith, it's your spouse, and then it's your kids. So, wifey comes first. All right, number 7, learn to speak a new language. So I actually just heard Dr. Ray Omid, who is another client, who was talking about the 5 love languages. And it's easy to like read the book. Thanks, Gary, for writing the book. Gary for writing the book. And so when we talk about 5 love languages, you're gonna have to help me here. Like, we're talking about words of affirmation, we're talking about gifts, we're talking about acts of service, quality time, and physical touch, right? So you probably speak one of those languages, and your spouse probably speaks a different language, and we all naturally love others the way we receive love the best. But that's where marriages usually hit the first wall, is we don't realize that you're doing everything you can to love your spouse the way you want to be loved, which feels a lot like the golden rule, right? But I've heard it said there is a platinum rule. And so the golden rule is do unto others as you would have them do unto you, right? Treat others the way you want to be treated. The platinum rule is treat others the way they want to be treated, which is actually, it's simple, it's profound, and the love languages work that way. And so it's a simple conversation. I'd encourage you to have it with your spouse. How do you receive love the best? And if you don't know, try all 5, see which one they light up on, and start doing that more, and you'll see the difference in time. Yeah. You agree? What's your love language?
Words of affirmation.
What's mine?
Gifts.
Yeah. I love getting stuff. Alicia's got a bonus for you, and she's going to give you a scenario.
I'm not. This is
Come on, it's a bonus. Number 8. Number 8 is fight naked.
Oh my
Fight naked. Because here's the thing. Try it. And next time you and your spouse get in a fight and you're going at it and you're just angry with each other, find the nearest closet and go into it with your spouse and just start taking clothes off.
Like go at it a different way?
And see, yeah, go at it a different way. See if you don't go at it a different way. You start stripping while you're arguing, and it is impossible to stay angry. So, have we done that? We tried that yet? We haven't even tried it yet. So that's a lesson we learned without the scars.
Oh my gosh! Our really good friends, they did that. Is that work?
We have proof. We have proof that it works. And one day when it gets bad enough, and there's a closet close enough by, we'll get a chance to do it. I mean, like, how often do we argue? Not often enough. Whatever. I disagree. Like,
I mean, we might argue often, but we don't stay mad for a long time.
Yeah.
So spats here and there, but being mad is boring and lonely. So.
Yeah. Somebody told us one time, and I was kind of shocked it didn't make the list, but we were in ministry. But what they said about marriage, and we'll sign off with this, is nothing in your life will ever be better than your marriage. So if you're married and marriage is not going well, nothing in your life will ever be better than that. And
that's great.
And I think that as you were talking about health and all the other aspects of health, right? It's crazy. I mean, you can be in the best shape of your life. You can have zero debt. You can be in counseling, getting help with, emotionally and mentally, you could be going to church. You can be in a small group. But if your marriage sucks, you don't care about any of that stuff because life sucks. So, as we're talking about health, one promise that we can make to you that I believe comes from life experience and from God's word is if you get your marriage healthy, everything else will be positively impacted by it. So, Alecia, any final thoughts before we sign off?
Marriage is a gift, and gratitude will change your attitude.
Tell them about angertude.
Angertude? I don't think we have time.
We don't have time.
But I'm just saying, like, if you've been married for a little bit of time, and like Matt was saying, you can tend to take it for granted. But I think don't forget how many Christmases or Valentine's Day you're like, oh, I just want to be married, and then you are. So don't forget that. Don't forget that God gave you what you prayed for, and be thankful.
Yeah, and now you got to stand up to the blessing.
Pick up the socks and say thank you.
Do the dishes.
He does all
every
the
day.
Dishes, literally all the dishes.
All right, let's keep the wave of wellness going. This is fun. This is a fun in between as we get ready to sit down with a bunch of business leaders and growth mind, health leaders, to interject maybe the most important thing we'll talk about on this podcast. So from the Dawkins crew to you, we'll see you on the next episode.